Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime review. This one's going to be for episode 207, which is called Regeneration. So yeah, we got most of the rest of the fight with Boro here, including two pretty major moments, of course. Sarada actually using the Chidori and being sort of key to beginning to bring the fight with Boro to an end. And then obviously at the very end, the sort of debut of Boroshiki, sort of Momoshiki taking over Boruto, with the whole karma mark situation going on here. So, this was obviously teased from before, if you were paying attention to some of the scenes with like Jigen talking about them. Here we're actually seeing that in action. So that's kind of interesting, just that like we now know obviously information about, Jigen is actually Ishiki, so it's actually Ishiki in control of Jigen, but Boruto's kind of like the reverse, where Boruto's in charge and Momoshiki isn't. But here, Momoshiki's taken over. Now, obviously, the logical idea here is that Boruto is completely basically out of chakra and he's been beaten up pretty badly. So here is Momoshiki coming to the forefront because Boruto doesn't have the power to fend him off and sort of to protect his vessel. So very, very cool when they got that right in terms of the visuals, the just amazing glow coming off, the words that clearly Boruto would never say. But it being a very just cool moment that this is actually this really kind of in a way tragic thing happening to Boruto being taken over like this, but in this instance where they're basically out of options and all they need to do is finish off this kind of rampaging berserker Boro, this feels like, okay, Boro's not going to last too long here, I get the impression. But the question then is, how do we stop Boruto? Can we reverse this, or what? What's going on here? So they're the real sort of questions that we have in all of this. And so, the other thing with this episode, of course, is just that with those two scenes, there are two sort of, heavily discussed things that relate to the anime versus the manga, that relate to ocular jutsu powers. So with Boruto, everyone's talking about it. Like every chapter of the manga that comes out, every new episode of the anime, it's sort of like, when will we see Boruto use the Jogan again? So here we see Boruto with a white-ish eye. So which one is this? Now, I think very clearly they show this as the Byakugan here, and in a way, I've always felt that logically it makes the most sense that in this form, it is the Byakugan, because that is the eye that Momoshiki has. That's like the inherent power of the Ototsukis, is that they have a Byakugan, whereas the Jogan is sort of Boruto's secret special power. So Momoshiki taking over Boruto, it logically makes a lot more sense for it to be the Byakugan. Because I've always interpreted it that if Momoshiki threatened to permanently take over Boruto, that the Jogan would be something that would actually sort of counteract the taking over process. So it would fight against the Otsutsuki kind of aspect coming into play. But they're not ready, seemingly, like at all, to really get into what the Jogan is really about. But it's just always important to remember it, because in the anime, which seems to be the more sort of detailed canon of Boruto, it has been the one to really heavily introduce the Jogan as a concept, as an ability. So that is just important to note that the Jogan is still there somewhere, but here I think we are seeing the Byakugan, of course. So really cool way to, of course, begin to bring this fight to an end. They covered basically nearly 2 chapters again. They end like with about 10-12 pages left of volume 11, so they in 2 episodes basically blew through a full volume of content here, because it was just a fight. We're quickly catching up. Like I said, Volume 12, I think, in the English release has been a little delayed, so it's not out for another few weeks, I don't think. And so the anime is now caught up to even the English release of the manga, which is kind of interesting. Um, the other big moment, of course, in the middle of all the fighting, I will talk about just the flow of the fight overall afterwards, but just these are the big talking points from the episode. Um, Sarada uses Chidori successfully for the first time, targeting Boro's core, which is the key to his regeneration, and succeeds. They really did a great job just executing this scene visually, being aware that in terms of this fight, this is the big moment. Show this Chidori for everything that it is. This, lightning fast assassination move that is just zoom, and any sort of a distraction and that person is going to get got, and that's exactly what happens here. I like the support that the team gave Sarada, including Kawaki being like, watch him and see what's going on, try to figure it out, and then her realizing that the only option she has is to try and in the middle of this fight use this jutsu that she hasn't really perfected just yet. And it looked so cool. Boruto doing one last little bit of distraction, back flipping over her as she comes in, and she just goes straight through, gets the core, and that leads to the end sequence of the episode. Really, really cool moment. But interestingly, they didn't have Sarada gain the third Tomoe of her Sharingan in this moment. Now, I was pretty sure that this would be the moment that they would do this for multiple reasons. One, in the manga in this scene, she already has the third Tomoe. There's no question about it. It's just sort of off screen. Sarada just has all three Tomoe. Because obviously her getting the second one was in the fight with Deepa, so that wasn't even in the manga at all. So they just sort of established that this happened off screen in the manga, like it wasn't particularly important. So there was almost just for a kind of accuracy, like coming out of this fight, she has the third Tomoe, and here's an ability that kind of sort of relates to having a decent number of Tomoe. Now, we know Chidori can be performed with just two. Sasuke did it for a lot of original Naruto, but it's fine. The problem is, like, okay, I understand it. The third Tomoe deserves a big moment because, in terms of Sarada's character arcs and how they're using her in the manga, she's not as big of a character as Boruto or Kawaki within this series. This series really only has room for a handful of characters, and for the most part, that is the villains, Boruto and Kawaki, and then Sarada is sort of your other support character that is like not quite on the same level as the other two, just in terms of screen time and amount of big moments, but she needs to get some big moments. So those moments feel like they have to relate to the Sharingan. So they gave her the big moment in the Deepa fight. This felt like an opportunity to do it with the third Tomoe. And then obviously the Mangekyo Sharingan, if they ever get around to that, that's obviously going to be the huge one. And that's the thing here. It's like, it's ultimately the debate over the third Tomoe. How big of a moment should it be for her to get that? How much do you value that? Because to me, I don't think it's anywhere near as big as the third Tomoe to Mangekyo Sharingan. Just because they've never really overly clarified exactly the power level jump of going from sort of 1 to 2, 2 to 3 with the normal Sharingan really is. You get it, it's just in general better, but it's nowhere near the likes of, when you go from normal Sharingan to Mangekyo, where you actually unlock whole other avenues and whole other abilities. This is just your vision gets better. You can focus on more things. You have sort of, perfect vision, able to dodge stuff easier, that sort of thing. So from that perspective, I'm kind of this moment is probably the biggest recent moment with Sarada in the entire manga. Why not do it here? Otherwise, you're potentially setting her up for an even bigger moment where the net result will just be that she gets the third tomoe and is just faster vision, basically. Which to me wouldn't quite have the same impact as maybe a Mangekyo kind of reveal if that ever happens. It's just a little bit of a debate that goes back and forth about, what are they saving the third Tomoe reveal for with Sarada? Because without really spoiling anything from the manga, Sarada basically doesn't really have any particularly, notable moments from this scene onwards. Like, once this sort of sequence comes to an end, from now until really the recent chapters, she isn't a major focus of a lot of the chapters. Like, she's not in a bunch of them, and the focus shifts to other things. And so, if they're building up to something, it's going to happen in an anime original episode, or it's going to happen when they get around to covering stuff that even the manga hasn't got to yet. Because we're sort of in a bit of a training arc at the moment. We haven't really got the reveal about what exactly they're training on. Maybe this is an opportunity to build towards that. But again, that's where the manga is. We really don't know where it's heading going next. So, I think that's worth, having the discussion about. I definitely ended this episode feeling like I was a little disappointed that they didn't do that just to give this big moment something even more. But I'm also willing to give it the idea of like, okay, cool. Then when they actually do it, it'll either really enhance some anime-only episodes or they're saving it for an even bigger moment. That's fine. We'll see how it goes. The pressure now, I think, is on it where like this felt perfect to do it here with the Chidori, which kind of relates to Sharingan power level. It felt like it was all set up to do it here. Now there's even more pressure on this scene when it eventually does happen, because if it just happens and the power level increase doesn't feel like it does anything particularly in the fight, that's gonna not feel great. And it's gonna be like, why didn't they do it here? But anyway, strong Sarada moment, probably one of her best in the entire series. I love the way they shot the Chidori. They got across how just speedy, powerful it is. Really well done. As for the rest of the fight, I actually really liked how this worked in animation, because yes, Boro has like infinite and like perfect instantaneous regeneration, but it meant that the characters were able to throw a lot of jutsu and abilities at Boro, have them hit, see the damage, highlight how powerful the characters are, that they are able to destroy Boro's body, but he regenerates it. And they have to figure out, like, what do we do here? Do we just keep wasting our energy trying to just hope that we eventually destroy enough of him that it stops? Or do we figure out something more? This is a much more interesting dynamic to me than like what they did with the Delta fight, where, oh, she can absorb jutsu, let's not use any jutsu anymore in this fight because it would be pointless, until they go for the whole overload with jutsu kind of idea. This at least was like, okay, we'll keep going, have Sarada watch what happens to him as we destroy him, because I like the logic of, well, if there's something inside him facilitating the regeneration, we've destroyed separately every part of his body. So we should have destroyed this thing if it was in a permanent position. So it has to be moving around in some way, and so this retroactively explains why whenever he would receive an attack, he'd always do the like hand sign thing to move it. That's what was happening. So we thought it was some sort of a thing where he has to activate his regeneration before he gets hit, but no, it's him moving the core to a place he's not going to get hit. And Sarada realizes that and realizes, okay, I have to hit the core with a really, really fast attack to the point where he won't be able to move it before I hit him. So it all logically came together to be, this is the way we get past this impassable ability, basically, the instantaneous regeneration. Now, obviously he goes into his sort of giant berserker mode after this, where the damage he's taking is permanent, but he's just so powerful and relentless. And because he's so much bigger, they're not able to do the same level of damage where they just immediately blow off half of his body. So they've already sort of ran out of energy just to get this far, and so the team then begins to get kind of pummeled by him. So some pretty brutal scenes of just like Mitsuki getting crushed into the ground. The characters just getting tossed around was pretty brutal, and especially Boruto starts to get pounded multiple times into the ground. But it's a great setup for suddenly he stops. Boruto's not there anymore, and he turns around and there's Boroshiki up in the sky. You know, like this is the guy who's all about sort of God, who really worships the Otsutsuki kind of more than anyone else. And here is one in front of him. So there's something kind of fitting about that Boro is about to get attacked by one of his gods, basically. So that's kind of an interesting one that's sort of fitting with the whole kind of cult idea where he's trying to get people to support the Otsutsuki, and he's all of a sudden the one who's probably going to get wrecked here by Boruto in this form. So just like I said, overall I thought a very strong episode. Moments of really, really strong animation, but again, you could sort of tell that they didn't go absolutely all out, but they did as much as they could, given that we've just come off a pretty big fight. We're going to go into another pretty big fight. There's so much major content happening at this point where you kind of get it, where they don't have a sort of free pass to just, here's all these episodes of setup, and then we've got this one big fight followed by more setup. That's the sort of perfect positioning for them to do the all-out, full animation episode. We haven't had that really here because it's been big fight into big fight into big fight, with only an episode of maybe talking before the fight as a break, which isn't enough to kind of put all your attention on just one episode. So that's why we're not quite getting the Naruto and Sasuke versus Momoshiki fight level quality just now, but we'll see what they do with some of the other stuff that they're pretty much going to have to cover. But we'll see where they go. But the big question probably is is the third tomoe are they building that up? They're saving it for later on in the manga where we are now. They're going to sort of retcon that in a way to be okay, this big moment coming up in the manga for Sarada, that's where she gets the third tomoe from, or is it just going to happen in an anime original arc that they place in between the manga adaptations? I don't really mind. I think people have been waiting for stuff say Sasuke talking to her about the Uchiha clan and sort of maybe warning her about as you progress up in power, this is typically how you gain power as an Uchiha, that it's tragedy that allows this to happen. Now, obviously, it prompts the question for Sarada that not the way she's been gradually gaining her powers has not really been out of pure tragedy in the same way we've seen with a lot of the other ones. There's still an aspect of sort of more positive emotions to it, and what way are they going to really take that? And so it would be nice to have that conversation just for Sarada to learn that information about her father, about the clan, where her powers are heading. So that's probably my main takeaway out of that, is just okay, where does this leave Sarada as a character? Because, her having 3 tomoe in the manga didn't really change anything. And then it all depends on, in the moment when she gets it, does it change anything? But we'll see how that goes. So, yeah, really strong episode. I'm very excited for next week as well to see Boroshiki in full action here. And then especially to see where we go from there in terms of, is the anime going ahead with the next stage of the manga, or are we going to get a little bit of a break? Because there is one plot point that is slowly being set up throughout the manga at this point that they haven't really been touching on all that much so far in terms of Kashin Koji. He's just still sitting there in the Leaf Village, or what's going on here? That whole traitor plot with him. Are we going to return to that? Make a bigger deal out of that than the manga did to set up what happens next? I'm guessing that might be what they do to give it a little bit more development for Kashin Koji. But yeah, that's been my thoughts on the episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were. But that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.